I'll warm your bed, human. Just don't kill me. The alien warriors surrender. The crimson dust of Xerion 7 swirled through the aftermath of battle, coating everything in a fine layer of rust-colored particles that sparkled with microscopic crystal fragments. Captain Marcus Vale stood atop the ridge, his pulse rifle still humming with residual energy as he surveyed the devastation below. The Zalathi defensive position had crumbled after 3 hours of sustained assault, their crystalline fortifications shattered like broken glass across the canyon floor. "Sector 7 clear, Captain," Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled through his helmet comm. "No survivors found," Marcus acknowledged with a click of his comm, but movement in his peripheral vision caught his attention. Among the destroyed Zalathi equipment, a figure stirred. He raised his weapon, advancing cautiously down the slope. The alien warrior was on her knees when he reached her, purple blood seeping through cracks in her bioarmor. Her species, the Zalathi, were humanoid in basic structure but with distinct differences. Skin that shifted between deep violet and silver depending on the light, elongated limbs that spoke of low-gravity evolution, and eyes that held 3 distinct irises, creating a mesmerizing triple pupil effect. She looked up at him, those strange eyes wide with what he recognized as fear despite the alien features. Her helmet was cracked, revealing angular features that might have been beautiful if not marred by dust and blood. "Don't kill me, human," she said in accented but clear English, her voice carrying harmonics that made it sound like multiple people, speaking in perfect unison. Then, to his complete surprise, she continued, "I'll warm your bed." Marcus froze, his finger hovering over the trigger. "What did you say?" The Zalathi woman. Girl, really? She couldn't be much older than his youngest. Sister maintained eye contact despite her obvious terror. "Among my people it is tradition. A defeated warrior may offer personal service to their conqueror. It ensures survival and maintains honor through submission rather than death." "That's barbaric," Marcus said automatically, though he didn't lower his weapon. A bitter smile crossed her features. "Is it more barbaric than execution? I am Lyra Senvar, 3rd Blade of the Crystal Guard. I have information your people would value. Skills that extend beyond combat. I offer them all in exchange for my life." Marcus studied her through his helmet's HUD. Biometric scans showed she was severely injured but not dying. Her surrender seemed genuine. Zalathi were known for their rigid honor codes, and once given, their word was absolute. "Captain Vale," Chen's voice interrupted. "Extraction in 5 minutes. Do you need assistance with disposal?" "Negative," Marcus replied, making a decision that would change everything. "I have a prisoner. Prep medical and detention protocols." Lyra's shoulders sagged with relief, though she remained perfectly still as Marcus bound her wrists with energy. Restraints. As he helped her to her feet, she stumbled and he caught her automatically. For a moment, they were close enough that he could see his own reflection in her triple irises. "Thank you," she whispered, and the harmonics in her voice resonated through his chest in a way that was disturbingly pleasant. The transport ride to Firebase Omega was tense. Marcus's squad kept their weapons trained on Lyra while the medic, Corporal Martinez, treated her wounds with obvious reluctance. Lyra endured it all with stoic silence, though Marcus noticed how she flinched when Martinez was rougher than necessary. "Sir," Lieutenant Chen pulled him aside. "Command protocol is clear about Zalathi prisoners. Intelligence extraction, then termination. You know what happened at Colony Theta." Marcus did know. The Zalathi had slaughtered every human there, including civilians. The war between their species had been brutal and without mercy for 2 years. Yet something about this particular enemy's surrender struck him as different. "She mentioned information about crystalline technology," Marcus said. "That could be valuable enough to keep her alive." Chen looked skeptical but didn't argue further. Firebase Omega was a sprawling complex built into the side of a mountain, its defenses designed to withstand both conventional assault and the Zalathi's unique crystal-based weapons. As their transport landed, Marcus saw base personnel gathering to stare at their unprecedented prisoner. Commander Sarah Knox was waiting in the hangar, her expression thunderous. "Captain Vale, Explain why you've brought an enemy combatant to my base. Intelligence opportunity, ma'am, Marcus replied crisply. She claims knowledge of Zalathi crystal technology and offered full cooperation. Nox's eyes narrowed as she studied Lyra, who stood as straight as her injuries allowed. And the medical team tells me she propositioned you? Heat crept up Marcus's neck. A cultural misunderstanding, Commander. She was offering a formal surrender according to her customs. Interesting customs, Nox said dryly. Very well. Standard. Interrogation protocols. If she provides actionable intelligence, we'll reassess. Otherwise, she'll be transferred to Central Command for processing. Marcus knew what processing meant. He found himself hoping Lyra's information proved valuable. The interrogation room was stark white, designed to be disorienting. Lyra sat across from Marcus, her energy restraints glowing softly. Between them, a hollow recorder documented everything. Tell me about the crystal technology, Marcus began. Lyra tilted her head, a gesture he was beginning to recognize as consideration. Your people see our crystals as weapons. They are so much more. They are memory, consciousness, the very essence of our civilization. Explain. Every Zalathi city is built around a prime crystal, a massive formation that stores our collective knowledge, our history, our songs. Her voice took on a wistful quality. When we die, our consciousness is uploaded to the crystal, joining our ancestors in eternal harmony. Marcus leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. And the weapons? Fragments of dead crystals corrupted and repurposed for war. It's sacrilege to many of us. She met his gaze. Not all Zalathi support this conflict, Captain. Some of us believe there could be another way. Yet you fought. You killed humans. Pain flickered across her features. I am a soldier. I follow orders, but... She hesitated, then continued in a rush. There are things happening that you don't understand. The war isn't what either side believes. Before Marcus could press further, alarms began blaring throughout the base. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the red glow of emergency power. Security breach in Section C, the automated system announced. All personnel to battle stations. Marcus jumped to his feet, but the door wouldn't respond to his security code. They were locked in. Captain, Lyra said urgently, this isn't a Zalathi attack pattern. Someone else is. The wall exploded inward, showering them with debris. Through the smoke, figures in unmarked armor advanced, weapons raised. Not human design, not Zalathi either. Without thinking, Marcus threw himself in front of Lyra, shielding her from the initial barrage. He felt her hands on his shoulders, steadying him as he returned fire. The restraints, he shouted, fumbling for the release. The energy cuffs fell away, and Lyra immediately grabbed a piece of twisted metal, wielding it like a blade. They fought back to back, an unlikely partnership born of necessity. Lyra's inhuman speed complemented Marcus's tactical training. When one attacker got too close, she struck with lethal precision, her movements flowing like water. The attackers retreated as suddenly as they'd appeared, leaving Marcus and Lyra breathing hard amid the destruction. Through the ruined wall, they could see the base in chaos. Fires burning, personnel running, and more unmarked soldiers engaged with base security. We need to move, Marcus said, checking his weapons charge. Your people will think I'm responsible, Lyra pointed out. Then we'd better find out who really is. He looked at her, making another crucial decision. Can I trust you? She held his gaze, those triple irises reflecting the emergency lights like fractured prisms. You spared my life when honor demanded my death. Among my people, that creates a debt that cannot be broken. She touched her chest in what he recognized as a Zalathi oath gesture. I am yours, Marcus Vale, until the debt is paid. Something about the way she said his name with those harmonic overtones sent an unexpected shiver through him. He pushed the feeling aside. They had bigger problems. Together they ventured into the chaos of the base, unaware that they were taking the first steps toward uncovering a conspiracy that would challenge everything both species believed about the war. The Alliance, the Firebase Omega corridor stretched before them, emergency lights casting dancing shadows as smoke drifted from damaged systems. Marcus kept his rifle raised, hyper-aware of Lyra moving silently beside him. Her bioarmor, despite the damage, seemed to bend light around her edges, making her harder to track even when he looked directly at her. "Central Command is 3 levels down," he whispered. "If we can reach it—" "Your Commander Knox already thinks I'm responsible," Lyra interrupted. "Walking into your command center would be suicide for me." She was right. Marcus had seen the security footage playing on repeat on every functioning screen, somehow edited to show Lyra apparently triggering the explosion in the interrogation room. Someone had planned this carefully. Then we find proof of who's really behind this, Marcus decided. The attackers came from Section C. That's restricted access, only senior staff have clearance. They moved carefully through the base, avoiding both the mysterious attackers and confused firebase personnel. Lyra's alien senses proved invaluable. Twice she pulled Marcus back from ambushes he hadn't detected. Section C was in ruins. The blast doors had been cut through with precision tools, not weapons. Marcus examined the marks while Lyra stood watch. "This is industrial equipment," he muttered. "Mining gear. But why would—" "Captain Vale." The voice made them both spin. Dr. Adrian Webb stood in the destroyed doorway, his usually pristine lab, coat stained with soot. "I thought I might find you here." Marcus kept his weapon raised. "Webb, what are you doing here?" The scientist smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "The same thing you are, I suspect, trying to understand what's happening." His gaze shifted to Lyra. "Fascinating. A living Zalathi specimen. Do you know how valuable she is?" Something in his tone made Marcus's skin crawl. "She's a prisoner of war, not a specimen." "Is that what you think this war is about? Prisoners and territory?" Webb laughed, the sound bitter. "You military types, always so limited in vision. This war is about evolution, Captain. About the next step for humanity." Lyra tensed beside Marcus. "The crystals," she breathed. "You're harvesting our crystal technology." "Harvesting is such a crude term," Webb said, pulling out a device Marcus didn't recognize. "Integrating is better. Human consciousness merged with Zalathi crystal matrices. Immortality, Captain. True immortality." The device in Webb's hand pulsed with familiar energy, the same signature as Zalathi weapons. But wrong somehow, corrupted. "You're experimenting on captured Zalathi," Marcus said, the pieces falling into place. "The missing prisoners from previous battles. And human volunteers," Webb added casually. "The process requires both species. A biological bridge between organic and crystalline consciousness. Your friend Knox authorized it all, though she probably didn't read the fine print." Before Marcus could respond, Webb activated the device. Pain exploded through Marcus's skull, dropping him to his knees. Beside him, Lyra screamed, that harmonic voice splitting into discordant agony. "Neural resonator," Webb explained calmly as they writhed. "Specifically tuned to disrupt both human and Zalathi nervous systems. My own design." Through the pain, Marcus saw more unmarked soldiers entering. Webb's private army, he realized. Corporate, mercenaries or something worse. "Take them to Lab 7, Webb ordered. "Alive. A mated pair will provide fascinating data." "We are not mated," Marcus managed through gritted teeth. Webb's smile widened. "Not yet. But the Zalathi bonding process is remarkably adaptable. With the right encouragement, even cross-species pairing is possible. Imagine the applications, Captain. Human soldiers with Zalathi abilities. Zalathi workers with human innovation, the E." Pain increased and darkness crept into Marcus's vision. The last thing he saw was Lyra reaching for him, her triple irises filled with something that might have been apology or promise. He woke in a cell that hummed with energy. Force fields instead of bars, the blue glow casting everything in cold light. Lyra was in the adjacent cell, still unconscious. Her bioarmor had been removed, leaving her in a form-fitting undersuit that revealed just how similar and different their species were. "Lyra," he called softly. Her eyes opened slowly, focusing on him with difficulty. "Marcus, where—" Webb's private lab, I think. Somewhere beneath the main base. He tested the force field, getting shocked for his efforts. He's completely insane. No, Lyra said, sitting up carefully. He's something worse. He's logical. If he can truly merge our species' consciousness, he'll create something unprecedented. Abominations, Marcus said flatly. Or the next stage of evolution. She moved closer to the force field between them. My people have legends of the first singers, beings of pure crystal and thought who transcended physical form. Some believe that's our destiny. Webb might be trying to force that evolution, using unwilling test subjects. Yes, her voice hardened. That cannot be allowed. They spent the next hour testing their prison, finding no weaknesses. The cells were too well designed, incorporating both human and Zalathi containment protocols. Marcus was about to suggest they try combining their efforts when the force field suddenly flickered. A figure in maintenance gear appeared. Lieutenant Chen, of all people. Chen? Marcus stood quickly. How did you— No time, Chen interrupted. Deactivating the force fields. Webb's preparing for a full-scale test. He's got 30 prisoners, human and Zalathi both. We have maybe 10 minutes. As they followed Chen through the facility's maintenance tunnels, he explained in hurried whispers. I've been investigating the disappearances for months. Webb has backing from multiple corporations, maybe even government black sites. This goes way beyond Firebase Omega. How many know? Marcus asked. Too many. Not enough. Knox found out an hour ago. She's mobilizing loyal forces, but Webb's mercenaries have superior positions. They emerged into a vast cavern, clearly artificial, but ancient Zalathi architecture, Marcus realized, carved from the mountain itself. At its center sat a massive crystal formation, dark and dormant, surrounded by modern equipment and containment pods. Each pod held a person, human, and Zalathi, alternating in a precise pattern. They were unconscious but alive, connected to the crystal by fibrous cables that pulsed with bioluminescent energy. By the singers, Lyra breathed. That's a prime crystal, a dead one, but still. This is blasphemy. Webb stood at a control station, his back to them, accompanied by a dozen mercenaries. Ah, Captain Vale, I wondered when you'd arrive. Guards, please don't shoot them. They're far too valuable as test subjects. The mercenaries raised their weapons but held fire. Let them go, Webb, Marcus demanded. This is madness. Madness? Webb turned, his eyes bright with fanatic fervor. This is transcendence. In 60 seconds, I'll activate the merger protocol. 30 minds will become one, human and Zalathi united in crystal harmony. They'll be the first of a new species. They'll die screaming, Lyra snarled. Prime crystals aren't meant for forced consciousness. The psychic feedback alone has been accounted for. Webb's fingers danced over the controls. Unless, of course, someone interferes with the process, then yes, everyone connected dies, rather permanently. The trap was clear. Try to stop him and 30 innocents would die. Let him proceed and those same innocents would be transformed into something inhuman. Marcus looked at Lyra. Something passed between them, an understanding that transcended species. She nodded almost imperceptibly. There's a third option, Lyra said, stepping forward. The crystal will accept willing participants more easily. Let the others go and I'll volunteer. Lyra, no. Marcus started, but she continued. A Zalathi trained in crystal harmonics, willingly joined with a compatible human. Your test would have better chances of success. Webb considered this. Intriguing. And who would be your human partner? Me, Marcus said without hesitation. Let the others go, and we'll participate in your experiment. Chen grabbed his arm. Captain, you can't. It's the only way to save them, Marcus said quietly. He looked at Lyra. Besides, you said I created a life debt when I spared you. This makes us even. Something flickered in her triple irises, hurt perhaps that he thought this was about debt. But she nodded. Even. Webb was practically glowing with excitement. Yes, yes, a warrior pair, already showing compatibility signs, much better than random pairings. He began releasing the other prisoners who collapsed as the connection severed. Guards escort them out, gently, their valuable research data. As the prisoners were removed, Marcus and Lyra approached the crystal. Up close it was even more imposing, 10 meters tall, multifaceted, its surface covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. The process is simple, Webb explained, preparing 2 modified connection cables. The crystal will scan your consciousness, map your neural patterns, then create a hybrid matrix combining both. You'll share thoughts, memories, perhaps even abilities. And if we're incompatible? Marcus asked. Then you'll die, Webb said cheerfully. But I have faith in cross-species potential. Lyra took Marcus's hand, her skin cool against his. There's something you should know, she whispered in that harmonic voice. Among my people, this kind of joining, it's permanent. Whatever happens, we'll be connected. Marcus squeezed her hand. Then we'd better make it count. The cables attached to the base of their skulls with a sharp pain that quickly faded to numbness. The crystal began to glow, first dimly, then brighter, its light pulsing in time with their heartbeats. Then the world exploded into sensation. The revelation. The crystal's consciousness engulfed them like an ocean of light. Marcus felt his mind stretching, expanding beyond the boundaries of his skull, touching something vast and ancient and utterly alien. Then Lyra was there, her mental presence cool and structured where his was hot and chaotic, and suddenly they were falling into each other. Memories cascaded between them. Marcus saw through Lyra's eyes as a child, standing before her first prime crystal, feeling the songs of 10,000 ancestors welcoming her. Lyra experienced his first day of military training, the pride and terror intertwined as he took his oath to protect humanity. This is wrong. Lyra's thoughts echoed in his mind. The crystal isn't just dead. It's been corrupted. Webb doesn't understand what he's done. What do you mean? Marcus thought back, marveling at how natural the mental communication felt. Prime crystals don't just store consciousness, they filter it, purify it. This one has been feeding on the war's violence for years. It's full of rage and pain. The crystals' glow intensified, and suddenly, they weren't alone in their joined consciousness. Other presences pressed against them, fragments of the previous test subjects Webb had used. Human and Zalathi minds torn apart and reassembled incorrectly, screaming. In eternal silicon prison, Webb's voice penetrated the mental storm. Remarkable. Neural integration at 47% and climbing. Their compatibility exceeds all projections. We have to stop this, Marcus thought urgently. If he completes the process, he'll create an abomination that could destroy both our species, Lyra finished. But how? We're trapped in the merger protocol. Then Marcus felt something else through their connection. Lyra's training in crystal harmonics went deeper than she'd revealed. She knew how to navigate the crystal's consciousness, how to find its core programming. You've done this before, he realized. Once, during my initiation into the Crystal Guard, but never with a corrupted crystal, and never with a human consciousness joined to mine. Show me. Lyra hesitated, then opened her mind fully. The intimacy was staggering. Every secret, every fear, every hidden desire laid bare between them. Marcus reciprocated, letting her see all of him, trusting her with everything he was. In that moment of perfect unity, they found it, the crystal's original purpose, buried beneath layers of Webb's modifications. It wasn't meant to merge consciousness at all. It was a communication device designed to bridge the gap between species. The first singers, Lyra breathed mentally. They left these for us to find when we were ready to transcend our differences. Webb's corrupting their gift, Marcus added, using it for forced evolution instead of natural understanding. Together, they reached for the crystal's core protocol. Webb's safeguards tried to stop them, but their united consciousness was stronger than his solo programming. They began rewriting the crystal's function, returning it to its original purpose. Neural integration at 82%, Webb announced excitedly. Soon we'll see the birth of... Wait. What's happening? The patterns are shifting. The crystal's light changed, from harsh white to a softer spectrum, colors that had no names in either human or Zalathi language. The screaming fragments of previous victims began to calm, their torn consciousness finding peace in the restored harmony. Now, Lyra and Marcus thought as one. They turned the crystal's energy outward, broadcasting not the forced merger Webb wanted, but something else entirely. Truth. Every conscious mind within kilometers suddenly understood what Webb had done, what he'd planned, and what the war had really been about. In the firebase above, Commander Knox gasped as foreign memories flooded her mind. Webb's communications. With corporate backers, his experiments on prisoners, his plan to sell hybrid soldiers to the highest bidder. Miles away, Zalathi commanders suddenly saw through human eyes, understanding that not all their enemies were monsters, that some had fought only because they believed they were protecting their loved ones. Webb screamed, clutching his head as his own memories were laid bare for all to see. The mercenaries lowered their weapons, horrified by what they'd been supporting. "Shut it down!" Webb lunged for the emergency controls. Chen tackled him, both men crashing into the equipment. Sparks flew as delicate machinery shattered, and the crystal's light flickered dangerously. The feedback. Lyra's mental voice was strained. Without the proper shutdown sequence, pain lanced through their joined consciousness. The crystal was destabilizing, its energy turning inward. If it shattered, the psychic backlash would kill everyone connected to it, including them. Together, Marcus thought, pouring his strength into Lyra's mental presence. She drew on his determination, his human stubbornness, while he borrowed her Zalathi understanding of crystal harmonics. Together they began to sing, not with their voices but with their thoughts, creating a resonance that slowly, carefully, guided the crystal toward dormancy. The process felt like hours, but took only minutes. When the crystal finally went dark, Marcus and Lyra collapsed, the cables disconnecting automatically. Marcus caught Lyra as she fell, her body trembling with exhaustion. They were still connected, he realized. Not as completely as when joined to the crystal, but a permanent link existed between them now. He could feel her exhaustion, her relief, and underneath it all, something warm and growing that might have been Captain Vale. Knox's voice interrupted as she entered the cavern with a full security detail. "Medical team now." "Commander," Marcus managed, still supporting Lyra. "Webb, in custody," Knox said grimly, "along with half the base's science division apparently." The crystal's broadcast was quite comprehensive. She looked at Lyra, her expression unreadable. "The Zalathi forces are requesting a ceasefire. They want to discuss what everyone just experienced." Lyra stirred in Marcus's arms. "The truth," she whispered, her harmonic voice weak but clear. "Both sides finally know the truth." 3 days later, Marcus stood in the same cavern, now converted, into a neutral meeting ground. The dead prime crystal remained as a reminder, its surface dark but somehow peaceful. Representatives from both species had gathered, military leaders, scientists, diplomats, and survivors of Webb's experiments. Lyra stood beside him, their hands not quite touching, but the mental link humming with shared anxiety and hope. She wore ceremonial Zalathi robes instead of armor, the fabric shifting through purple and silver as she moved. General Harrison of Earth's combined forces faced Crystal Lord Vexhai of the Zalathi Empire across a simple table. Between them lay the preliminary peace accords that Marcus and Lyra had helped draft. "Your warriors fought with honor," Vexhai said, his triple irises focused on Harrison. "We grieve for the losses on both sides." "As do we," Harrison replied. "This war should never have happened. We were manipulated by those who saw profit in our conflict. Yet from conflict, understanding can grow." Vexhai's gaze shifted to Marcus and Lyra. "Your officers have shown us this. Their joining through the crystal has created something unprecedented, a bridge between our species." Marcus felt Lyra's mental touch, amused and warm. "They're talking about us like we're not here." Politicians, he thought back. Same in every species. Harrison cleared his throat. The corporations responsible for escalating the conflict will face justice. Full reparations to both sides, and the technology they stole will be returned or destroyed. And the crystals? Vexhai asked. Your Dr. Webb proved they can be corrupted, used as weapons. Which is why we propose joint custody, Harrison said. Human and Zalathi teams working together, learning from each other. The first singers left them for all of us, didn't they? Vexhai's expression softened, what passed for a smile among Zalathi. So young Captain Vale and Third Blade Lyra have taught us. He stood, extending his hand in the human gesture of agreement. Let our species learn together what the first singers intended. As the leaders shook hands, applause broke out from both delegations. The war was over, not through victory but through understanding. Later, Marcus and Lyra walked along the base's observation deck, watching Xerion 7's twin suns set over the crystalline mountains. The mental link between them hummed with contentment. So, Marcus said eventually, about that offer you made when we first met. Lyra laughed, the harmonic tones sending pleasant shivers down his spine. To warm your bed? I believe humans have a saying about desperate times. That's not what I meant. He turned to face her, taking her hands. They were still cool to the touch, but he'd grown to love the contrast. The connection we share, is it just the crystal's effect, or... You can feel my mind, Marcus, she said softly. You know what's real. He did know. Through their link, he felt her emotions as clearly as his own. Affection, attraction, and something deeper that transcended species boundaries. Love, perhaps, or its beginning. Among my people, Lyra continued, what we share would be considered a life bond, permanent, unbreakable. And among mine? She smiled, reaching up to touch his face. I believe you call it marriage. Marcus pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him despite their differences. Then I have a new offer, he said. Stay with me, not as a prisoner or because of debt, but as my partner. In everything. Your military might object. They need translators, advisors, people who understand both cultures. We're uniquely qualified. Your family will think you've lost your mind. They'll love you once they know you. Lyra was quiet for a moment, but through their link he felt her joy blooming like sunrise. Yes, she said simply. When they kissed, it was nothing like the desperate connection in Webb's lab or the confused attraction of their first days. This was choice, free and clear, two souls choosing to bridge the gap between worlds. Around them, Firebase Omega was transforming. Human and Zalathi personnel worked side by side, learning each other's languages and customs. The fear and hatred that had defined the war was slowly being replaced by curiosity and cooperation. There will be challenges, Lyra said against his lips. People on both sides who can't forgive, who won't accept what we are. Then we'll face them together, Marcus replied. We've already survived war, conspiracy, and mad science. How hard can peace be? She laughed again, that beautiful harmonic sound he'd grown to love. Through their link, he felt her complete response. Hope and determination mixed with the practical, acknowledgement that peace might be the greatest challenge yet. But they would face it as they'd learned to face everything, together, bridging two worlds with understanding, respect, and love. 6 months later, the new colony of Harmony stood where Firebase Omega had been. The military installation had been transformed into a center for cultural exchange and scientific cooperation. At its heart, the restored prime crystal glowed with gentle light. No longer dead but renewed, containing not forced merger but willing communication between species. Marcus and Lyra stood before it, dressed in clothing that blended both cultures. His uniform modified with Zalathi ceremonial elements, her robes incorporating Earth military insignia. They were about to perform the first official joint marriage ceremony, broadest to both worlds. Ready? Lyra asked through their link. With you? Always. As they spoke their vows in both languages, the crystal resonated with their words, carrying them across space to Earth and the Zalathi homeworld alike. They promised not just to love and cherish each other, but to serve as bridges between their peoples, to work for understanding and to prove that from conflict could come unity. When they kissed, the crystal flared with brilliant light, not harsh or demanding, but warm and welcoming. A blessing from the first singers, perhaps, or simply the universe acknowledging that sometimes the most unlikely connections create the strongest bonds. The war was over. The peace had begun. And at its heart stood two warriors who'd learned that sometimes surrender led not to defeat, but to the greatest victory of all, understanding, acceptance, and love that transcended the stars themselves.